right, we will call the Plan Commission meeting to order. We do have a correction on the minutes, one for sure, in case anyone other people may have found others, but it's brought to our attention that in the second paragraph, discussion of possible action on September 24th, it's actually September 10th. So substitute 10th for the 24th twice in that paragraph. Make that amendment to the minutes.
So moved.
Second.
Motion is second to amend the minutes. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is approved. And then is there a motion to approve the minutes?
Yes.
So moved.
Motion is second to amend, or to approve the minutes. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is approved. All right. Discussion possible action on rezoning recommendation of the Common Council for a zoning map amendment application from R1 one-family residential to RT transitional two-family at 1031 2nd Street, J. Clarain. Is that right? Clarain? Okay.
Thank you, Mayor. Jay Clarain is requesting to rezone his property at 1031 2nd Street from R1 one-family to a transitional RT two-family residential property. Property will be, or is proposed to be used as a two-unit rental property. So one unit would be long-term and another would be short-term. In your packet, you'll find definitions of the RT district. I would like to highlight the in close proximity to commercial districts line. Typically, RT districts are somewhat closer to general commercial or downtown commercial districts. At least the one that we do have in existence right now is. It's right next to the downtown district. So something to keep in mind. The Common Council otherwise will be holding a public hearing on this item on October 21st to receive public comment. In addition to that, we did receive an email from Mary Ellen Cox, from the owner of Phipps Inn Bed and Breakfast. We would like to add that into the minutes.
May I ask what type of short-term rental is being planned? I mean, you said one's long-term, one's short-term. What's short-term?
Well, we do have Jay Clarain here to answer any questions. Otherwise, David Gray is also here as well.
Okay, I'll wait for one of you to.
Well, I'm sorry, what were you reading into the record?
Nothing. Oh.
Mary Ellen Cox, owner of Phipps Inn and Bed and Breakfast. She sent an email to us recently.
You should have all received it.
Yep.
Oh, yeah, we got that here, I guess.
So just to follow up with your question, Fred, the short-term rental can be anything from a Airbnb, vacation. Jay can help me out here. VRBO. It's a little more not like your traditional bed and breakfast, but it's a short-term rental basically. Anywhere from a single night to a few nights stay for a group of people. When discussing this with the city attorney, she wanted to be clear that we're talking about a land use issue here. We're not talking about drafting an ordinance for short-term rentals tonight.
I understand.
So we're just trying to determine if this rezoning application has merit based on its location and based on the applicant's material.
Dave, unless Mr. Clarion can answer the question, let's just call a spade. Is this going to be an Airbnb, a VRBO? Is that what it's going to be?
Kevin Urbick, attorney for Jay Clarain. Basically, the way it's set up is there's one section which is a living unit for one long-term rental. There's another section in the front of the property that's set up as kind of an Airbnb weekend rental type of situation. My client currently has a tourist rooming license through the county. He's currently paying the rooming tax through the city. I know it was brought up about the downtown district proximity. It's about 1.5 blocks to 2 blocks off of the downtown district. This property is also adjacent to a multi-family residential property, which is a large complex on Second Street. And it's just right on Second Street here. It's basically an older house that's been converted for preserving its longevity. He did renovations, he did remodeling to the house to create the two residential living units. He also, through his renovations, remodeling has the ability to monitor the activities of the residents via, I believe it's live interaction, communication with them at any time of day. He also has 6 off-street parking spots within the driveway. It's a larger, wider driveway. And we're just requesting that the rezoning to the RT, I think, is consistent with the intended use of the property and the proximity to being downtown.
Mary Claire?
Have you received any comments from any other neighbors?
No.
I mean, I know there were initial comments when this first came up, so,
None since we sent out the mailing. David might have some others that he received.
Yeah, none specific to the rezoning. We received complaints earlier in the summertime that spurred our activity with the property owner. We have not had a complaint, I want to say, since not October, August 3rd, I believe, was the last time there was any complaint. And since that time, I don't want to speak for the applicant, but since that time, Jay has installed the doorbell that can communicate with the renter.
communicate with, I'm sorry, I didn't hear that, the what?
Do you want to speak more to that, Jay, if you don't mind?
I'll comment on that. There was a call to the police department early in August. In reviewing the police report for that, it's my understanding the officer went out there and said it was basically unsubstantiated. There were just complaints about people just generally being outside past a certain hour. And to monitor the activities, I think part of the streaming service that he has with the Ring doorbell, he can also monitor when the doors are opened. So he installed that to try and make sure that if there are issues like this, he's not waiting for the police to be called or respond. He can immediately respond to the tenants that are in the unit.
How do we know we're collecting room tax dollar on this already? So it's already operating as an Airbnb?
That's what they said.
How do we know if we're getting the tax dollar, room tax on it?
You said it was paid to the county.
No, the room tax is paid to the city. The license he currently has is through the county.
Is there a number somewhere that can be found, David, on that?
The clerk's office would have that on record.
What was that, Tiffany?
The clerk's office would have that on record.
Our clerk.
Yeah.
Is it an on your honor system?
Oh, the room tax? No. Really?
His is, he said.
I'd like to have those numbers, we could potentially find out, or get some kind of idea of how many Airbnbs or VRBOs are running in the city. If we had some numbers.
Right?
Well, they have reported that they're running.
That's a different issue, though.
Right.
And that's not this gentleman's issue.
Right.
Right.
Right. I understand that.
Yeah.
One question I have is, you said one of the units is long-term lease. What is considered long-term?
I'm just using that term generally. Right now, he has one tenant in the back unit, which I think is a one-bedroom section, which he has currently under a one-year lease.
1 year?
Yeah.
Okay. Anybody else?
Need a motion to approve?
Yep.
So moved then.
I guess I'm a little concerned as living downtown, near downtown, that we just keep seeing them move out, between businesses and a rental into the residential areas of downtown Hudson.
I'd be concerned too. The Croy View there My guess is the residents there have not been notified. And I think they would probably have an issue, maybe hence that's why the cops were called one time. I don't know. But I think they would voice some concerns if that were true.
Is that the multi-family building? There was a mailing that went out to all properties within 350 feet.
And no one,
When did that go out?
It goes out, it probably went out about a week ago, and it's specifically to let them know about the public hearing, which is on October 21st. But I send it out early enough to also note that this, Planning Commission is considering their recommendation to the council tonight.
Mary Claire?
Sometimes haven't we waited until after the public hearing? Or,
we just did on the last proposal on the apartment complex down there. We waited for the public hearing for that.
Oh, before we made a recommendation.
Yeah.
so I'm wondering if people agree, if that's a route that we want to take again.
I would like that.
Let it die for lack of a second.
Hang on one second, David?
So there's 3 steps that we could choose to take, laid out in your packet. One would be to approve the rezoning and comp plan amendment as presented. Second choice would be to deny the rezoning and comp plan amendment as presented. And the third choice would be to postpone the rezoning and comp plan amendment as presented. Each of those steps kind of carries with it some suggestions on how to go about that, or why to go about that.
I will make a motion to postpone the rezoning of this until after the public hearing and and review it at that time.
I'll second that.
All right, we got a motion and a second. So what your motion then is to have the public hearing, have the council take it up after the public hearing? You don't want to make any recommendation here, or do you want to come back here after the public hearing?
After the public hearing.
You want to come back here after the public hearing?
That is correct.
Okay,
Is the public hearing at a council meeting? That's the, 21st, yeah.
right.
Is there any items?
Last night, we had the public hearing and then we turned it down. So we didn't refer it back here. So that's why I just want to know
I understand that.
what the motion is.
And that can happen again.
Sure, okay, well, or.
If you turn it down, there's no reason for it to come back here.
Well, my question is, after the public hearing, do you want it to be referred back here before the council acts on it?
If it's necessary to do so, yes. If it, for some other reason, some action is taken that would make that unnecessary, I would say so be it.
Okay.
But no action will be taken if it's just a public hearing.
Oh,
Well, it could. Yeah, we did last night,
Okay.
He's saying they did it.
because we
so-
balked on the, what property was it?
The 821
The big
first.
kind of
Oh, the rest.
charcoal looking structure.
With the
And
council.
we passed that to the council for a public hearing, and the council took up last night and denied it right after the public hearing. So I just want to know if that's, if you want the council to take it up. Are we doing the same thing here? We're just balking on making any type of recommendation and letting the council do it? Or are we asking the council to, right after the public hearing, to send it back here?
I say send it back here,
Send it
but
back.
it's your motion.
That, in all fairness, send it back. Yeah.
Okay. All right,
I change.
so we got that?
Yeah.
And you got that as a motion, Emily? Okay.
In the meantime, is there any topics or any issues that staff should be researching?
Well, if there's financial numbers, I'd like to see that, but I'd also like to see any more, if there's any, just the one police call? That's all.
There's two
I was
that I'm
curious
aware of.
about the nature of the calls.
There's 2 police calls?
Two police calls, I think one when I reviewed the report, it was more about the quantity of the people than the, there wasn't anything illegal going on, it was just the quantity of people at the residence. The second one, I think we touched on, it was the time of day. There's people on the front porch at a late hour.
I was wondering on the first one, if it was a neighbor looking over and seeing, because they're not used to seeing anyone in the backyard, sees a number of people in the backyard and calls the police, being a good neighbor, thinking somebody's breaking in, or were they calling, complaining about what was going on amongst those people in the backyard?
It was the amount of people in the front yard in this instance.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, we have a motion and a second in front of us. Further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's approved. Discussion possible action on a rezoning recommendation to the Common Council for a zoning map amendment application from B2 General Commercial to RM2 Multiple Family Residential and a comprehensive plan amendment from General Commercial to Medium Density Residential at St. Croix County Tax Parcel 236-2070-03-031, Land Devco Hudson LLC.
So Land Devco is requesting to rezone Lot 31 of the South Point plat from B2 General Commercial to RM2 Multiple Family Residential. This would require an amendment to the 2009 Comprehensive Plan from Commercial to Medium Density Residential. They are desirous of rezoning to a 3-story residential condo building that would include 88 units, a sky deck, and some underground parking. The maximum building height would be set at 50 feet. Should be noted, though, that these could be rental units or condos as well, so kind of interchange the use type, so to speak. We can't, though, specifically designate whether the units are owner-occupied or not by law, so should be noted. Additionally, the council will hold a public hearing at their next meeting on October 21st, 2019 for public comment. So yeah. And then you have 3 listed considerations for this item. Any questions?
I like this concept better than the one that was proposed before. I think it's a little more, a little better looking.
Do we know what spurred the change?
What was the question, Kurt?
I'm just curious what spurred the change.
Nick?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the commission. I'm Nick Vivian, counsel for this project. This is really kind of the third phase of the Mayor Road development with the single family in the back, the 25 Summit Ridge, then the middle section townhomes. And originally we had proposed apartments on this space. And we had come to the city with a concept of, I think it was 144 apartments at that time, to feasibly make this work. What we heard at the time was that the council and the plan commission weren't so keen on that number of units. And additionally, the additional feedback that we received was that there was a preference for owner occupancy, so form of condo ownership. And so we went back and took a look at it, and also thought about kind of the size and spread of the buildings, and feel that this is a much more appropriate use of the 5.5 acres. So all in all, it's I think a better addition to the development overall, with fewer units, even though they could be rentals. That's not our intent or our business plan. It is to sell these as owner-occupied units with a price point of, call it the high 2s to into the 300,000s for price point. So hopefully a more reasonable price point as well. But really, buying into that home ownership in that area. And so it's not intended to be apartments. It's intended to be 88 owner-occupied condo units.
Anybody?
I'll move we approve the rezoning.
I'll second.
Motion is second to approve. Discussion? Anybody? No? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's approved. Discussion and possible action on concept development plans for Winnesota Distribution Center at 3010 Enloe Street, Winnesota Regional Transportation.
So Minnesota Regional Transportation has submitted concept plans for a warehouse facility at 3010 Enloe Street in the St. Croix Business Park. This includes approximately 1,750 square feet of office space and about 78,000 square feet of storage. The facility will include dry storage as well as refrigerated warehouse space at both 35 degrees Fahrenheit and 0 degrees Fahrenheit. Staff's recommending approval of concept development plans with the listed conditions.
Is this where we dump all our snow?
No.
That corner? No?
Sinkers.
Is there any?
There is like a stormwater pond next to this property
Yeah.
that you're probably thinking about, but if this is one of the last open parcels within the St. Croix Business Park. Yeah.
Okay.
I will move to approve with the city staff's recommendations as the guidance for this motion.
I'll second it.
Mary Claire.
Is there any discussion about the traffic? There's a really sharp turn there in that curve, and there's already a lot of semi-trucks kind of going through there, so if they build on this spot, is there been any talk about traffic and flow around that curve, that short curve?
We will have traffic engineers looking at this
Okay.
more thoroughly, so, yeah.
I mean, it's just very tight there.
Yeah.
Okay, anybody else?
Slow down, Mary Claire.
Thank you, Commissioner Morrison.
Anybody else? Got a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's approved. Discussion and possible action on recommending the Common Council set a public hearing date for a rezoning map amendment application from B2 General Business to RM2 Multifamily Residential and a comprehensive plan amendment from General Commercial to High Density Residential, Girard Development LLC.
So Girard Development is requesting to rezone 2040 Maxwell Drive from B2 General Commercial to RM2 Multiple Family Residential. This also requires an amendment to 2009 Comprehensive Plan from commercial to high-density residential. There's a bit of history involved with the background of this parcel, so bear with me for a moment. In October 2017, there was an overall development plan proposed for the Maxwell that included a couple of buildings, 2 36-unit multi-use commercial multifamily residential developments. They require 30% of the first floor space to be commercial when it's zoned B2. But since the construction of their first building at 2000 Maxwell Drive, they've had a hard time filling the open commercial space on the first floor, and so they're proposing something different with this second parcel, in that they want to remove the business component altogether and just make it strictly residential. So it would still only have 36 units maximum, which is the standard for the B2 zoning anyway, but they just want to restrict it to residential.
I think we have a good history with those people. They've been in Hudson and done other projects and things like that, that basically what's being said here is it's not working financially for them, and to have them trapped into having to do this when they can't rent it. I mean, I can't see how we can force that issue. I don't think it's fair. And so with that, I mean, that would be my opinion.
I heard some concerns about the first development. Is it because the floors were not cemented in, that you issued occupancy permits before it was done being constructed? Or are they empty, dirty lot down there on the first floor of the?
That's pretty common. Not to concrete the floor until you have a tenant, you know.
But that's what happened?
They currently do not have a floor in their commercial
Okay,
space.
so it looks unfinished to somebody just walked in there.
Right, yep. I think the question is the location, you know, would a business be viable
Sure.
in that spot?
Maybe in 5 years, but not right now.
Right.
Yeah.
Who knows?
And
Yeah,
they typically don't put the floor in until they know what the plumbing and everything else is.
Right, yeah, I'm just relaying the
I
question.
don't think that was part of the concern. I do know that, you know, my office is right there, and I know that they've used multiple entities to try to find a tenant there, and it's off the beaten track, there's just no traffic that would draw people over there.
Mm-hmm. But our concern as a city is that typically when we don't see that first floor as commercial, over time the buildings tend to deteriorate.
I'm with you.
Well,
With you on
I
that.
heard that from somebody. And so that's why I tried to mute that point in the sense that we've got a history with Gerard, and I think they've demonstrated that they're not that type of landlord.
Right, no, they've been good for
And
the
so
city.
that's why I would make a motion for this with any city contingencies.
Okay,
I'll second it.
motion and second, further discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed, motion's approved. Discussion and possible action on recommending the common council set a public hearing date for a zoning map amendment application from B2 general business to RM2 multifamily residential and a comprehensive plan amendment from the general commercial high density residential. Oh, I just did that, didn't I? Oh, that's just for a,
We're on E.
okay, that's just for a hearing, okay, yeah. Discussion and possible action on public participation plan for the comprehensive plan update.
All right, so the Comprehensive Plan Steering Committee had its first meeting on September 23rd, where we talked about a proposal for a public participation plan, which is a requirement for comprehensive plan updates. And so Bria Grace, who is our project manager through SEH, brought this plan forward that includes providing a couple different types of surveys. One would be a standard mailed survey through like water bills and such, and another would be a Polco survey, which is basically a series of small batches of questions that would be emailed to people that would sign up through an email listserv. There'd also be some hosted public involvement meetings, stakeholder meetings, notices being posted on a project website hosted again by SEH, posting news and meeting notices, social media, city website, bulletin boards at a variety of locations such as City Hall, the library, online meeting center that we have, et cetera. And then also holding some press releases and video recordings of public involvement meetings when people can't make it physically to these meetings. The staff and the Comprehensive Plan Steering Committee have both recommended the Plan Commission to send a recommendation of approval to the council. Any questions?
This was the meeting that we had, I'm sorry. The meeting that we had, I'm impressed with SEH on this. And we had imparted to them our concern of getting a lot of public input on the comprehensive plan, as well as the type of input to make sure that we're covering age ranges, as well as ensuring that most of the input is coming from residents and verifiably coming from residents here. They have a way of tracking this through registered voter rolls, which is pretty cool. I like that. In fact, I think they were the only ones that brought that to us during the RFP process. So anyway, obviously the Comprehensive Plan Committee passed this unanimously and wanted to bring it here. So,
Very, very concerned, like you said, about the getting to people, communicating with people with, of course, with our local paper being what it is and stuff like that. I'm trying to be fair here. We want involvement. We don't want it to be said that, hey, I didn't hear about this, how come I wasn't notified of this, all of that. We're trying to avoid that. And then on top of that, when somebody suggests something, we've made a couple of stipulations to ask if you want something, who should do it, how should it be paid for. We're asking for some detailed questions on that to, try to get people to understand how it works. I guess really understand how it works is what I look into that as saying.
yeah,
It's not free. I mean, nothing's free.
yeah.
Oh, we want this. Well, who's going to pay for it? I mean, or how should we pay for it? Those types of things. So, anyway, I'm impressed too. This gal is, I think, very sharp.
Yeah. Is there a motion?
I can't make it. Somebody else should.
Why can't you?
I make the motion to send to the. What are we doing here?
Sending the recommendation of approval to the council.
I make a motion to send the approval of this to the common council.
I'll second it.
Motion and second. Further discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion's approved. Discussion on rooftop beehives, and Mary Claire's done some background on this and research.
I was given some background and research.
Okay, fine. Did you have anything you want to say?
Well, I mean, I know that you just received it now, so you maybe haven't had a chance to review it, but I apologize. I don't know if this has been something that's been discussed before or not, but it's been just brought to my attention by some folks that are interested in having the option of having rooftop beehives. And some landlords are open to doing that and approving that, so.
Yeah, I read your narrative, and to me, that makes perfect sense. And what I was wondering is, why specifically were beehives on rooftops proscribed in rulemaking on this?
Are they currently
They eat.
illegal?
I believe they're
Yeah,
not.
it's
30 feet.
They've been called out specifically in the information that Mary Claire provided
And
us.
number 9, yeah, hive shall not be located on rooftops.
Yeah. So, but I thought it made perfect sense, what Mary Claire has given us. And I guess I'd like to, do we have any idea why?
Yeah, so staff recommended not, prohibiting rooftop beehives from operating because of health concerns. There's some restaurants in downtown and other, I don't know what other places, but like, we don't want beehives to be located right next to porches or rooftop patios, so to speak, especially
Sure.
dining areas, just because bees are attracted to food and water and stuff, so.
Okay, so we could say within, I mean, if we would do something about this council level, we could say within X number of feet of outdoor eating, rooftop eating or something.
Be done.
Well, it's an ordinance change, so that's,
But you gotta, yeah. But those restaurants can't be having flowers up on the rooftop. I don't know. No, I thought it made sense, but that also makes sense, what you just said. I get that, but we're talking about honeybees that generally don't want to sting people. All right, so, what's the recommended, what do we do here? Just informational, was that it?
I think that's mainly informational, right?
Staff will look into,
Recommend staff to review it and come back with a
Okay,
ordinance change.
is that a motion? There was
Yeah.
no,
And I'll second.
this is just a
yeah, this was
discussion
just, it
topic.
didn't say anything for action, so, but I think you guys get it.
Yeah.
Sure. All right, sir, I see that you've been waiting patiently back there. Is there anything you'd like to add here tonight? No? Okay, thank you. Fred?
Couple issues I'd like to comment on, if I may.
Okay,
If you recall, some time ago, when Holiday came for the lighting proposal for their new canopy, we denied them the neon band around their canopy because of Riverway, I think was the reason. Overlay or whatever, and I drove through town last night, and I just want you guys to hear this and draw your own conclusion. Ziggy's has lights all the way around the top of their building, continuous one color. So does Hop and Barrel, so does Agave Kitchen. And it almost seems to me that if you're denying one and 3 others are doing it, what message are we sending? And it can be said they're not the same lights, that was already thrown at me. And they're not. They're like Christmas lights, but all one color.
yeah.
Continuous bands completely around the building. I mean, I'm not saying it's ugly. I'm just saying because of what we did at one, this exists.
So I presume Holiday came in and asked, right?
That is correct.
And I presume the others did not.
I don't know. Right.
Well, Ziggy's would have gone up within
In a year.
the last year, and Hop and Barrel would have been within the last couple.
Well, Agave's got it too.
Yeah. I don't remember how
So I
long. it's
presume
been.
they just did it without asking.
And then the other thing that I wanted to,
Perhaps they needed
well,
approval to do it.
just, yeah, I mean, just as food for thought here. I don't know if any of you have driven around behind the Erickson building where they've done, doing that patio and all that. I mean, extensive and beautiful. But boy, it seems to me that that road has gotten pretty darn narrow in there due to their new curb and gutter layout. There's a couple of restricted spots, if you've driven through there, that you need to do it, because it just seems like, they've put their boulevards and their things, and we've lost roadway, and it's not the nice wide thoroughfare that used to be through there. It gets real restricted right there in that corner, and then it only widens out once it goes past that building.
You talking First Street?
Yeah.
Yes, I am.
Well, there's no sidewalk.
I go through there frequently, and I can't say that I've noticed where the
Or the
curb,
center line's painted wrong.
where the curb and gutter is, but I just figured, I know there's narrowing, it's difficult passage there, but I just figured that's because of the equipment that's out there right now.
Drive it. And look at where the center line, if the center line of the road is where it's supposed to be, something's really wrong.
Okay?
I guess that's something the city should look at, is where, are they on whose land and the right of way and all of that stuff. And I hate to bring it up after it's all done, but it could be a problem because it gets restrictive where they have their parking.
Sure.
It gets narrow there, so it will be tight through there. Anyway, I don't know if any of you guys have seen it. I have.
So a lot of that parking is on public right of way. So the improvements they're making are public improvements.
Okay.
The center line of the road was just brought to my attention today.
Really?
The west lane, the southbound lane is actually wider than the currently northbound.
Big
So
time.
we'll have to take a look at that. I don't think we considered that when those improvements were done. But,
It affects the parking on that east side then, though, too, those 7 stalls or whatever they've got.
Do a restripe, we're having to restripe, there's some curb and gutter repairs gonna have to have in there anyway. but-
Well, it's just 2 little jutties out that make it, it's really minor, but it does, closes it down.
But it will, unintentional consequence, slow people down.
Right.
Oh, I mean, if you're looking at it that way, that's good. When you're on your skateboard, Randy, it'll make you slow down.
I was pointing at her.
I know, I'm giving you a hard time because I thought you were gonna do it to me, but anyway.
No, but there's another unintended consequences there, and that is that in parks, we're looking at the boat launch parking lot, raising it to the point that the boat launch so that we're not put out of business as long and as much as we are. And then also, do we increase the size, taking it a couple more rows to the north towards the volleyball court, that direction. And so then we make it a loop where traffic would come in by the Buckeye Garage, go through the boat launch, but exit over
Onto
by
Fourth Street.
commercial there, to bring the traffic out there.
It'd
Just
be really tough now, because like Fred said, I mean.
That's what I mean.
It's narrow.
It's very narrow.
Yeah,
Well, wait till it's
That
done.
is, you're right, that's something that,
that one is gonna have the impact over to the other, and I don't think that's even come to you guys
Well,
yet.
now's the time to catch it before.
Yeah.
you're right, thanks for bringing that
If
up.
something is wrong. I mean, I'm not saying it is. If it's by design and that's the way it is, I stand corrected.
it's by design, and it was thoroughly reviewed before it was approved. I think it's just because what you had was extremely wide
Yep.
and
Mhm.
unorganized. Now it's organized and,
Different.
it's a traditional two-lane street is what you have.
But you don't for the 4 blocks after that. That's the problem. And then it's right on that corner where, so many people to avoid downtown are, coming down to First Street and come whipping through there. I mean, and that's not gonna change. Anyway, I mean, I guess I'd ask you to look at it and see what you think.
Anything else? No?
Move to adjourn?
Second?
Motion second to adjourn. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's approved. Stand adjourned. Thanks, everybody.